So we begin with a Louisville woman who's wanting to end her pregnancy, filing a class action lawsuit this week to overturn the state's abortion bans, which have been in place since the U.S. Supreme Court struck down Roe v. Wade in 2022. The American Civil Liberties Union is representing the plaintiff, who is choosing to go by the alias Mary Poe. Poe is 7 weeks pregnant and is choosing to terminate her pregnancy due to extenuating circumstances.
This is the first time that we're going to be able to get at this legal question directly as to whether or not Kentucky's Constitution allows for access to abortion.
Pro-life supporters have said the suit is meritless. Kentucky Attorney General Russell Coleman, who is named as a defendant in the suit, tells Fox 56 that he stands behind the laws, stating in part, quote, "It's the Attorney General's responsibility to defend the laws passed by the General Assembly, and we will zealously work to uphold these laws in court." All right, folks, so let's go ahead and break down what we have before us. This is not the first time we've had this court case or this particular issue in front of a courtroom. Last time this was discussed, the fetus, I believe, passed away before any sort of decision was made. Now it seems that this will be the first time that we will actually get a ruling. Representative Brown, I'll go ahead and start with you here. Thoughts?
From what I understand, that it's before the Supreme Court and they're taking a look at it, and the lady said that she has a right, and I think she does have a right because it's her body, and that's the primary argument that we're having in the General Assembly from a political perspective. Is, does a woman have the right to make a decision concerning her own body, whether she stays pregnant or not? And it doesn't have anything. It should not have anything to do with what the law, what lawmakers have passed. And I think the lawmakers were overstepping their bounds by dictating that abortions were illegal in the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Representative Timoney, you know that many of your colleagues in the supermajority feel very differently about this. Any attempts since 2022 to kind of change anything to the trigger law haven't really gone anywhere. Do you see that changing?
I do see it changing. I do. I was actually one of the co-sponsors for an exceptions bill for that particular issue, and I think a majority of Kentuckians on both sides aren't in support of exceptions. And I believe Attorney General Russell Coleman, even in his statement, stated that you know, that's where, you know, his family is, that's where he is, and that's where most of the Kentuckians are. I do see it moving forward, but I do see it slowly moving forward, and I think it's going to take a lot of bravery and a lot of bold steps. That issue is a hot button issue, and going to 6-week total ban was an aggressive step. Even if you look at the nation as a whole, we were at 20 weeks prior to that, and we went to 6. You know, some states went to 15, some states went to 10. So we went all the way to 6, which is is probably the most. It is the strictest rule across the country, and I think that there are some people who are saying, well, we don't want to do harm. We don't want to harm moms, we don't want to harm families, and so they're looking at ways to address that through those exceptions. And I think in that particular case, because it is before the Supreme Court, I can't really comment a whole lot on the details, but I think those extenuating circumstances are, I think, where most of this case will be decided on.
Since this new paradigm has come about post-Roe, we've seen in other states, not particularly here in Kentucky, but the conversation has really gone back and forth over where do you kind of draw the line when it comes to the mother's life being at risk. Legally, how is that defined, and how does that contribute to the overall conversation of do we need to adjust the goalpost here, so to speak? And I say that also acknowledging the fact that we're all 3 dudes talking about something that is a women's issue.
And that's the thing that I think women have a problem with, is that dudes are making the decision, or the majority of dudes are making the decision. The fact that a woman should have control of her body, and it should be between, in my opinion, between the patient and her doctor and her God. And I think that what we've done with this legislation in America is that we've taken it away. And the fact is that abortion has never went away, and it's not going away. Even though it's illegal, abortion is still going to happen, whether it's legal or illegal, whether it's safe or unsafe.
Representative Timoney?
And I think that, again, doing no harm. We need to make sure that our people are safe, and our moms are given the supports that they need in order to carry through. You know, the one point I would like to make though about this particular case is, you know, a lot of the special interest groups jump on board with this particular topic, and they really steer the narrative, and I find that to be problematic, because a lot of times a lot of those special interest groups, you know, carry a lot of weight with them politically, and people feel like that they have to be a certain way in order to be in good graces of those special interest groups, when this is a very private issue. This is a private issue. You know, in our family, we wouldn't choose that. Right. You know, because that's, and you know, and my children, we talk about that. But again, we have to be compassionate. I mean, special interest groups are trying to find out who this lady is. That's not okay. Like, where's the compassion? Where's the dignity that we're supposed to show each other as humans? Does this lady need us to be seeking out her email address, or does she need our prayers to help make, you know, to help carry her through this? Yeah. She needs our prayer.
You certainly ask where you got to draw the line there. I'll let you have the last word on that. We got to move on to more.